Again, I'm Eric Damery. I'm with Freedom Scientific Vispero. I'm the Vice President of Software Product Management for the company, and I've been doing this for many years, primarily working on the JAWS side. And today we're going to talk about Fusion. Much of this is associated with ZoomText as well, but Fusion is a unique product in the sense that it's driven, or the navigation of the product at least is driven, and the speech component from JAWS. ZoomText alone has its own speech component and does its own navigation and tracking. And tomorrow, Roxana will take us through a ZoomText only session. Now, much of the information that I'm going to provide today may have come also in yesterday's JAWS session. So today we'll talk about it from a Fusion perspective and what it means and how it works. And one of the things that I spoke about yesterday is, when should a user be someone that considers Fusion? What is the driving factors that someone would want Fusion over just regular magnification like ZoomText? And in short, I think the explanation is, if somebody will navigate using their eyes and a physical mouse, then using ZoomText alone probably makes sense. It's designed for that. If somebody is going to use their hearing through speech and they're competent on a keyboard and comfortable learning the keyboard to do navigation, not that they can't use the mouse, but that they are willing to use the keyboard to learn some of these ways of getting around that JAWS introduces to the Fusion user, I think Fusion becomes the product for them to consider. There are a lot of people who will transition from ZoomText into Fusion. They'll be very comfortable making the move because the visual UI is pretty much the same. All the magnification and color settings that they've been used to will still work, but then they start to learn some of the speech components of JAWS and some of the keyboard navigation. If someone makes a transition from a Fusion product over to JAWS completely, if their vision is deteriorating over time and eventually screen magnification, even color enhancements are not effective, then just going to JAWS is a very easy transition for someone who's learned the navigation aspects from Fusion, because they all come out of the JAWS product. So I think with that, let's continue through and we'll talk about some of these things. Now, first up, I've got a slide here. And by the way, these slides will be made available along with the slides that I used yesterday for JAWS to anyone who would like to get them. And I'll go over this again at the end of the session. I'm sure that the SightCity organizers will have some place where people can download these, and I'll make sure that a zip file is produced and given to them so that they can share it. But in the meantime, if anybody needs or would like to get these sooner, sending an email directly to me, edamery@vispero.com. Make sure you put SightCity slides in the subject line, and I will reply back to that with the attachment, so you'll have it directly. So first off, I'm just going to talk a little bit about where you can find the information about our different software products. And on this first slide, I talk about going to the Freedom Scientific homepage, and there is a section, a heading up there for software releases, and underneath that you'll find a link to JAWS 2022, latest release, ZoomText 2022, and Fusion 2022. Clicking on those take you to a page on the Freedom Scientific site where all of the what's new information and enhancements that happen throughout the year for each version of our software will be found. So not only can you see what went on in 2022, you can literally go back and look at details about 2021, 2020. It goes back for a number of years. And that's a very useful place to get started if you're just trying to get caught up. If you know the products and you're trying to get caught up on what are some of the features maybe to consider looking at, skip through the headings on those pages and you'll find some valuable information. In this presentation, we're going to talk about several things. Quick access bar, which has been introduced into the Fusion and ZoomText products over the past year and a half. And I'll talk about some of the latest enhancements in that. New voices added from what we used to call Nuance, which is now Serance. I'll speak more about that. Automatic settings import when a new version gets installed. I'll speak to that topic. Some features that we built into JAWS is in particular around how sound is outputted and navigating email messages. We'll talk about that, and I'll talk about it from a Fusion perspective and how beneficial that navigation will work. And improved voice assistant. We'll talk about how voice assistant has now got introduced into Fusion. So first, the quick access bar. ZoomText and Fusion have always had a typical Windows application UI. It's really a toolbar, not a UI interface, but it always felt like a UI. You could Alt-Tab to it. And you could also tell it not to be in the taskbar and only be in the system tray. And you would have to go to the system tray and click it and bring it up and then interact with it and then dismiss it and go back to your work. The trouble was you always had to go to it. You couldn't bring it to you. And it had everything. You couldn't customize it. And we've seen over the recent years with Microsoft Office and their introduction of the ribbon menu system instead of the traditional text menu system with a few icons available. They put everything in a ribbon to make everything exposed, but very compartmentalized so that it was easier for a sighted person to look across the ribbon and figure out where they wanted to get to and then get to that spot. Now, the ribbon menu system, icons in general, are not necessarily the easiest solution, certainly not for a blind user, but even for someone who's low vision can be a challenge because they've got to literally look through all parts of it before they find the item that they're looking for. It's not easily customizable. And the ZoomText UI and the Fusion portion of the ZoomText UI has been very simplistic, but it's still a window, and you have to dig a couple of levels deep to get into some of the things that you might use on a regular basis. So our quick access bar is designed to be just that. It's something that you can find and you can bring it right into your magnified view. The keystroke to do this for Fusion users is to hold down the caps lock key and do a right mouse click. And that instantly brings the quick access bar directly to you. Now, the quick access bar can contain up to 8 things, like increasing and decreasing magnification is one, turning speech on and off. On my quick access bar, if you're looking at the screen, slowing speech down or speeding it up with the rabbit and the turtle, that's another one. Color enhancements, toggling the enhancements on and off if you inverse colors. Many different features that you can put on. The one down the bottom here is a voice assistant. And each of them will have tooltips. So when you point at them, you'll be able to see what they are. But the idea here is that you can design it. You can put the things that you use on it and take the things that you don't use off of it. So it can be very easy to work with. You can also search for different things. So there is a search window at the top, and you can type in some item like view. I did in the example here, and it will search for all of the different features within Fusion or JAWS, ZoomText or JAWS, because we're running Fusion, that include that word. And so in the example of the word view, we find restore view, save view, app reader text view, new freeze view, view clipboard, which is a JAWS feature, an app reader. And these are the top 6 hits for that search. Now, from there, you can just click on any of those items and get them to occur, or you can open it up and learn more information about it. Or you can say, I want to add this particular item to my quick access bar, because in the future, I'm going to use this all the time. Like maybe you like to always view the text that's on the clipboard at the moment. It'd be nice to be able to have that right there. So you would do caps lock, right mouse click to bring the quick access bar into your view, and you would click on that item for view clipboard text, and it would just open up in front of you, and then you can just dismiss it. Now, when you dismiss the quick access bar, it docks itself back on the right side of the screen. So this toolbar will just be posted on the right-hand side of Windows, not on the right-hand side of the magnified view. It docks itself on the edge of the window. And by default, we have it docked there all the time. It's slid down a little bit from the top. So if there is a close button on the window that you're working in, it should be exposed above the quick access bar. You can reposition the quick access bar to be on the left, the top, the bottom, or you can say, I don't need the quick access bar to live on my screen or in Windows on the desktop at all. I'll bring it with caps lock right mouse click when I need it. So you, in preferences, you can disable it and say, you know, don't dock this thing, just have it disappear, and that's fine. And I think advanced users, that's the way they would get, that's where they would go. But in the beginning, it does make sense to have it docked so people find it. You always know where it is, and you can go over and locate it for somebody who's not good about doing or remembering any keystroke commands. There are also voice commands to be able to bring this up. And so we'll talk more about voice assistant after. So you can literally bring this thing to the forefront using a voice command. Okay, next we'll talk about, and if there are any questions on any of these features, at the end, we'll have plenty of time here and we can open it up and we can have some questions. I may even bring that up on the screen and show you a little bit more about how that quick access bar works. So new voices, Serance, which is the name of the company now that controls Eloquence and Vocalizer Expressive. Serance was spun off from Nuance with the mobile or automobile voices, which is the Vocalizer. And of course, they've controlled Eloquence, which hasn't been in development for a number of years, but Nuance purchased it and it stayed with Serance. So the new voices are all Vocalizer Expressive. We've added 27 new voices. And the key here is that we've got 6 new languages: Belgian French, Farsi, Malay, Slovenian, Ukrainian, and Vietnamese. There's also new voices in many of the various languages and dialects. You can go through the list to find those. Now, for somebody who wants to try out these voices, they do not get installed automatically. However, if you've installed Fusion or JAWS or ZoomText and go into the voice settings of those applications, you will find an option called Add Voices. And when you go into Add Voices, this is where you find all of the Serance voices. You can install as many as you would like. You can install as many of the languages, because there are many voices that speak other languages. The thing about nuanced voices is they are not really multilingual voices. They can't speak both languages. So if you're going to read French text and you're going to read German text or English text, you would want to have a French voice and an English or a German voice. And we always install an English voice on there for you, but you can install others. And the reason that it's important to install one of those voices is if you're reading web pages, web content, and there are multiple languages on the page, you may find it more convenient to have a real French speaker, so to speak, read the French text rather than try to have your English voice or your German voice reading the French text. It's not necessarily true for everyone. A lot of people, I think, would like to just keep their regular voice and they get used to it. We're working on a feature to allow that to happen as well. That's not in yet. So you do need to install multiple voices. You can put on as many as you want. There are samples there. Each one is a unique download. And once you've installed it, you will have a voice profile for that voice. And you can switch to those voices when you're running Fusion by bringing up the voice profile dialog box and just quickly switch them on the fly. The next topic is automatic settings migration. Now, ZoomText alone had this feature over the past couple of years, so that when a new version of ZoomText is installed on the computer for a ZoomText user, they automatically adopt the settings from the prior year's version. And this is very helpful because if you've spent a lot of time setting up the magnification just the way you like it, or maybe someone like a trainer helped you and got it all set up, you don't necessarily remember all the things you'd have to do. So when we put the new version of ZoomText in, of course, it adopts those settings. Now, JAWS traditionally had not done that. Therefore, Fusion didn't get all the voice settings adopted. It only got the magnification settings adopted. Well, starting with 2022, JAWS does it as well. And so, of course, Fusion adopts all of your prior version settings. So when you go from 2021 to 2022, all the settings that you had previously set up will come in. There is also settings in Fusion, in JAWS, and in ZoomText to restore factory settings. So you can have all your user settings for that version removed, and it will go back to a clean install if you wanted to start over again. We've put a lot of work into Microsoft Office 365 in particular over the past several years. And I think if you are someone who is still using an older version of Office, we would encourage you to move on to Office 365 sooner rather than later. This is where the development from Microsoft is occurring. They're adding in UIA, which is an API to be able to provide information out to us, the screen reader and screen magnification software, to improve accessibility in the future for users. So with each update of Office comes some new things, constantly improving it, and we're constantly working with them to improve our side of our software. Not only is it important for you to always be getting the updates for the Office product, but you've got to get our updates as well to stay current. In the background, Windows is always changing, Office is always changing, and you want to make sure that you keep your screen reader and screen magnification software up to date. With the release of Windows 11 over the past year or so, you will need to at least be on version 2021 of our software to really get that to work, to install on it. And I strongly encourage you, make sure that you've updated to 2022, and 2023 will be out in the fall. You'll want to get that one. Microsoft is making rapid changes in Windows 11 to continue making improvements, and we're updating our software as we go. So you will want to keep up to date. Quick navigation and Outlook messages. This is a feature that we brought in for JAWS, but it is extremely valuable for a magnification user as well. So if you've got Fusion and you've got an email message or a thread that you've been part of or were sent, maybe you're sent an email that has many, many replies back and forth between different people. This can be a very long email, and it can be very hard to navigate down past heading information to find the particular text in one of the messages in the thread that kind of is what you're looking for. Because oftentimes if you come in late to the conversation, you got to go down and start at the end to follow the whole conversation back. So we added a quick navigation key N, which allows you, in this case, to skip past all the heading information, the from, the to, the date, the subject, and it moves the cursor right down with the magnified view to the first line of the next message in the thread, no matter who it was from. It tells you who it was from, tells you when it was sent, and then it reads that line. And for a Fusion user, visually, it's nice because it puts their cursor enhancement right on that spot. If that's not what they wanted to read, they can hit the letter N, and you'll automatically skip down and scroll the magnified view up to the next message in the thread and put your cursor on it. So if you have not tried this, you would definitely want to try this out in an Outlook 365 experience. Pull up a message from a listserv or pull up some message that you've sent back and forth with somebody and try this navigation aid rather than using your mouse to try and move down through the message. You can hit the letter N, and then you can just arrow down through that piece of the message, hit N, and go to the next one. If you find yourself in reading one of the messages within that thread and you forgot, wait a minute, who was it that wrote this? Or when did they send it? We've added some keystrokes, Alt-1 and Alt-2, which you can execute, and it won't move your cursor, so it won't move your magnified view up there, but it will just announce who who sent it and the date that they sent it. So next is something else that Fusion users will benefit from that came in from the JAWS side, and this is a way to lower your speech volume or lower the entire computer volume. If you are in a meeting such as this webinar or this presentation meeting, and you're in Zoom, and you're also trying to multitask, you're trying to read something with your screen reader and have spoken words come out while you're listening to me speaking, you might want me at a higher volume than you would want JAWS itself, so that you can kind of hear JAWS in the background, but it's not stomping on top of my communication. So this is possible when you're running Fusion by doing the following. Insert in the space bar, or the JAWS key in the space bar, and then you hit the letter V for the volume layer, because that insert space bar puts you into a layer where you can do other things with the keyboard. So insert space bar, V for volume layer, and then you would press J for JAWS, because remember, JAWS is the speech component in Fusion. And you then press the arrow keys up or down to have minor adjustments with JAWS volume, or page up and page down for greater jumps with the JAWS volume. So you can set JAWS maybe to speak a little lower so that you can still hear the speaker during the presentation. You can also go in and do insert space V for volume layer and hit S for system volume, and you can adjust the volume for all applications, including JAWS, and then go back and adjust JAWS. So if you want to turn down the system volume a little bit first, you can do that, and then you can go back in and adjust the JAWS volume second. Now, as time went on over COVID, we realized while the sound volume level adjustment was nice, the other problem that a lot of users have is that they're wearing headphones now. And of course, if this screen reader is coming out in stereo and the presentation is coming out in stereo, that becomes more difficult to listen to. If we could separate the channels, send the screen reader to one side and have everything else that's happening in either Zoom or YouTube video or Windows sounds, whatever it might be, have those all go to the other channel. So you'll hear JAWS on one side, Fusion on one side, and you'll hear everything else on the other. And so we added that feature in during the 2022 cycle. And you can try this out if you've installed the Fusion 2022 or JAWS 2022. You can do insert spacebar, V for volume layer, B for balance. And once you've hit the balance, then you just hit left or right arrow, and it will send the JAWS speech to one channel and everything else will stay in the other. To revert this, you can do the same thing, insert space V, B for balance, and then press the up arrow. That centers everything. Or restarting our software will also rebalance everything. So you don't have to remember to go back and do it. It'll just happen automatically the next time you start our software. Now, another thing that occurs oftentimes when you're plugging in new sound devices or headsets or starting an application and starting a meeting where you're going to be speaking, oftentimes the default sound device switches automatically on the computer, but JAWS or Fusion are not aware of that switch and don't follow it. So all of a sudden you've lost your screen reader speech. If you've been using Zoom and Teams enough, you know this has occurred, you've run into it before. And there's been a setting inside the JAWS menu system to go in and try and locate the proper sound card. But if you don't have speech, you'd have to have it all memorized and get lucky to get it right. So we built a new feature in that you can experiment with now if you have Fusion or JAWS. And this is a toggle to be able to tell JAWS to try different sound cards that are available. When it finds one that you can hear, you can stop right there. To experiment with this, you press insert spacebar to go into the layered command, V for volume, C for card. Remember, sound card. Once you've hit the C, you can now just press the up and down arrow. I would suggest you go in one direction only. It will wrap around when it gets to the end of the list. Most of us have 3 or 4 different sound output devices available to us on our computers. And as you hit the down arrow, JAWS will try and speak on the new one. If you don't hear anything, hit the down arrow again. Eventually you'll get to the one that JAWS is outputting to that you can hear, and you can just stop there, hit escape to leave the layer, and you're back in business again. So it's a great way to recover. Insert space V, C, and then hit the down arrow till you get to the speech that you're looking for. And I've always told people this, don't wait for you to need it. You should experiment with this one. This is a great one to practice because you want to, when you lost your speech, you're going to wish you remembered what the keystroke was to get it back. So you want to get this one ingrained in your mind. So experiment with it. Insert space, VC, down arrow, down arrow, down arrow. Okay, next I want to talk about something that we put into the product over the past year or two that's been very, very helpful for us, called the FS Support Tool, Freedom Scientific Support Tool. And this is available through Fusion in the Fusion Support menu under Tools. This is something that the tech support people will communicate with you when they want you to run it. And we use this to be able to gather information about your software that you're running, the versions of our software, maybe Office, the browser, the OS, knowing exactly what version your OS is. And it also looks for any logs, any crash logs or installation logs that are on your computer. And it also grabs your particular user settings that you're using. It pulls those all together into an encrypted, compressed file, which then can get uploaded directly to our support team. And you attach your email address to that, so we know to look and find the right package because it's got your name attached. So the support team will direct you to do this when they want to get it, but it makes it much easier than you having to go through all your applications and find this information. You can just run it with the support tool. Just takes a few seconds to get this done and then have it uploaded. And the support team can then open that up, verify what settings, the versions of everything, and this information can become invaluable to the development team trying to figure out why a user is experiencing something that we might not. And oftentimes it's helpful for us to be able to look at those logs and any crash files and settings. OCR capabilities, we've improved upon. OCR stands for Optical Character Recognition, and Fusion users can benefit from this just the same way a JAWS user can, because oftentimes someone has sent you, let's say, a large inaccessible PDF document, something that was scanned. And while you can visually look at it with the mouse and your magnified view, you can't easily read that document because there's no way for the screen reader to be able to read that text. And you might want to actually take it out of that accessible PDF format and open it up in Microsoft Word and be able to actually read it with the screen reader. And that feature is now built in. The OCR engine is included with your installation of your software, so everything is there. So if you download some inaccessible PDF document or somebody shares something with you that has text that just can't be read by the screen reader, you just hear it say empty document. You can move into Windows Explorer, File Explorer, locate that document. And while you're on the document in the file list, don't open it up. Just press Insert Spacebar to go into the layered command, O for OCR, followed by R, and it will perform the OCR on it. And then Word will open up and it will place it right into the Word document for you. Now, if you forget the keystrokes, you can locate the file in the window in Windows in File Explorer, locate the file, do a right mouse click on it. And if you're running Fusion or you're running JAWS, right inside of the context menu, you'll find Convenient OCR to Word. And if you choose that in the context menu, it'll perform that OCR, open up Word and paste it in. Now this assumes you have Word installed. If you don't have Word, you can actually have this OCR and put into something we call our results viewer, where you can then read through it. You can also select it in results viewer with a Control-A, do a Control-C to copy it all to the clipboard, and then open up the editor that you're using of your choice or even an email message and you can paste it in. So that's OCR. And again, it's built in, it's automatically installed. If you've got our software there, you've already got access to this. Voice Assistant, something we added back in 2021 as well, and we improved upon it in 2022. The idea behind the voice assistant, much like many of us have those Amazon devices on your counter, which I will not say the word out loud to avoid waking her up, but you have that tool there to be able to perform basic things for you. And the same exists with our voice assistant. If you don't necessarily remember all the keystrokes in our software, there are tools that you use that you don't do all the time, and you don't remember all the key commands, you can use the voice assistant. You can wake them up with hey, and then Sharky, or hey and Zoomy, and you can use either one in Fusion now. When you're running Fusion, you can say either one, and no matter which one you wake up, if you ask it to do something, it doesn't matter if it's a ZoomText command or a JAWS command, it will still perform it. So for instance, you could say, hey, Sharky, inverse colors, and it will change your colors for you. Or you could say, hey, Zoomy, tell me what time it is. And Zoomy will have JAWS actually read the clock to you without you having to go and look at it. So there are many things in here. A couple that I pointed out: copy version info to clipboard. This is very helpful. If you're talking to someone in support and they need to know your version information and you don't know what it is and you don't know where to go find it, it's very simple to just wake up the voice assistant and say copy version info to clipboard. And then you can go into Notepad and paste, and there's all the version information from wherever you were sitting. You can also use it to start and finish selections. So the commands for the voice assistant is start selection. And if you're on a web page, it puts a marker wherever your virtual cursor was, where you were reading. And then you can continue down through the web page, and you can be scrolling screen after screen after screen. And when you finish the article or whatever it is you're trying to select, you just wake up the voice assistant again and say finish selection, and it will highlight all of the text from the place that you started all the way to where you finished, and it'll allow you to copy that to the clipboard and take it someplace. So it's much easier than visually trying to drag the mouse across it. Just mark the spot at the beginning, read to where you want it to finish, and then tell it finish the selection, and it grabs it all. So there's many things you can do with the voice assistant. You want to probably look up in the what's new page and get some of the other commands. We've posted them all in those what's new pages that I referred to in the beginning. There's a new keystroke used to shut things down, and I believe this keystroke works for Fusion. If you're running Fusion, insert spacebar and F4, and it will restart the program for you very quickly in the event you got into a situation. There's also a command that's very helpful for folks that most people don't know about. The new command in 2022 that you can take advantage of is insert Shift Z. I'll explain what this is. Many people know that we use a virtual cursor to read web pages. And sometimes you don't want the virtual cursor, you want to interact directly with the web page. And you can turn off the virtual cursor by doing insert and the letter Z. Well, we added insert Shift Z because you may want to leave the virtual cursor on to read through text with up and down arrow, but you want to suspend the navigational quick keys. You want to turn those off during some particular web page that you might be on. And Facebook is a good example, because Facebook, while you're on their web page, provides keystrokes such as J and K that move you to different sections within your page. And since those keystrokes are quick navigation keys, we block that behavior. So when you're on the Facebook page, you do the keystroke Insert Shift Z to suspend quick navigation keys. Now you can use their commands built into the web page to be able to navigate around, but you've still got access to the up and down arrow to read with the virtual cursor. Great feature. And one of the features that I mentioned to the JAWS folks yesterday that's very beneficial for Fusion as well, and we put it in, it's coming in our June update. So June 21st is our scheduled release date. And this new feature called the Notification Manager, I think is going to be a tool that almost every user is going to want to take advantage of. Windows and applications that you're running are constantly sending messages. If somebody starts a Teams meeting, or somebody is calling you on Teams or Zoom, or maybe you've gone to Edge and you're loading web pages, various things happen all the time in Windows, and these notifications come across to you audibly, but you actually may find that they either interrupt you or you interrupt them because you're typing something and you missed what the message was. Now, we've always had a keystroke to be able to go back and read the last message, but you may not want to read the last message right at this moment. You're doing something else, but you'll want to come back and find out what it was later. Well, unfortunately, that last message isn't the last message later. Something else happened. So we introduced the notification history. And to bring this up, you're going to use the same keystroke that we've been using to read the last message, which is insert space N, as in notification. And it opens up a history window. And in that window is going to be all of the Windows messages that have come across. It's going to tell you the message, what application sent it, and when it was sent. And it will store these for 24 hours in the list. So 24 hours later, they'll start to fall off. But you can come in and you can move through this list. The most recent is at the top, and you can down arrow through them. What's really nice is that you can create rules around these messages. So maybe the message is too long and you want to shorten it up. Maybe the message would be better if you played a sound instead of saying anything at all. So you would just hear this sound and know that that was the message that it would have spoken. Or maybe you want to hear nothing at all because this is a message that just doesn't matter. Or maybe it's the message that you want to hear the message, but you don't want to see the message in your notification history. And I'll give you an example. When you're in Edge and you load a web page, it's going to give you a message about loading page or loading complete. Those are Windows notifications that are coming across. You want to hear that when it happens, perhaps, but you never need to go back and review the history and see that a web page was loading and it completed. Those are messages that don't need to be in the list. You can control those by right-clicking on any of those messages while you're in the history list and just say, don't show me this in the future. So watch for this feature, the notification manager. Insert space N will be the keystroke, and this feature will improve more. We've got plans already in place for the initial 2023 release that'll hit public beta in September. We'll be adding regular expressions to this and really improving the capabilities. And so you'll want to come back and see that again in 2023. Another feature that I wanted to tell you about, something that we've created, and we did this at CSUN, we were showing it off, but I believe that Matt Ader will talk about this some during his kiosk presentation if he hasn't already. JAWS Connect is a way for organizations to add something through our TPGI company so that when a JAWS user or a Fusion user would visit their website, they would be notified that this organization is participating in the JAWS Connect program and allow you to fill out a survey or give them feedback about the website. How is it to navigate? Where have you struggled? What could they do better? What did you like about it? Tell them good things too. And this is information that can go back straight to the manufacturer of that website, the company that owns it. And this is feedback that's very helpful for them from users directly. They get feedback from organizations that do consulting and do testing of web pages and so forth, but there's nothing better to hear directly from users to tell them how the page functioned for them as a blind user or a low vision user. So JAWS Connect is that feature. Watch for more information about that. And finally, I provided a slide at the end of the deck that has links directly to our training pages and installers, offline installers, information about remote access, and things like that. I would mention that all of our training information is free. There are lots of webinars. There's so much content out there. If you're involved in training others, if you know of a training center that's trying to teach users how to use this type of technology, direct that training center to the freedomscientific.com/training page. And all of that content that is there is available for them to use in their programs as well. So it can be very valuable. And with that, I will stop sharing and we'll open up the hand raising. So if you've got questions, if there's something you'd like to ask, you can go ahead and raise your hand. We'll unmute you just to avoid too many conversations coming in at the same time. And Jan, I'm going to unmute you.
Yep, I'm there.
Yes, I'm guessing that you could hear me okay throughout.
Yeah, clearly. Yeah. I was nicely paying attention. It was a good presentation. Thank you very much, Eric.
Good. There is a caller with their hand up on the phone. User 1, I've asked you to unmute. There you are. Can you hear us?
Hello, can you hear me?
We can. Yep. Go ahead.
I have a question concerning Fusion 2020. I have always the problem that is losing focus, especially on the internet. Do you know this problem?
You say losing focus, do you mean it stops tracking?
Yes, it stops tracking, or it's say nothing at all.
Yeah.
So you have press Alt the tab button.
Yeah.
In other applications, but on the internet it stops reading.
Yes.
It just stops reading, and you have to start from beginning.
Do you use Fusion? Is this on your own computer or is this at work?
No, it's on my own, on the private home.
Okay, so I mean, it is the 2020 version. We're up to 2022, going to 2023. I think this is really something where you want to be getting updates. Did you get this through insurance?
I have the newest update.
Excuse me?
Pardon? I have the 2022 update.
Ah, you have the 2022 update.
And I have, yes, it's actual.
Okay, and is this Windows 10 or 11?
Windows 10.
And what browser?
I'm using Chrome and the Edge, but more the Chrome browser.
Okay, so I would definitely talk to the call the tech support or the distributor you are exactly the type of a customer that we want to run the support tool and take a look at the versions of everything. This could be that it could be updates in Windows itself that aren't coming through. I'm not really sure, but if you're up to date on 2022 with Fusion running with Chrome, you shouldn't be having this type of lockup. The magnification, I mean, these are things that there were occurrences of this before, but today this is working very well. So something is not updating correctly.
It says losing focus, press Alt-Tab in other applications like Thunderbird, or when I'm on a desktop, it even says every minute losing focus, press Alt-Tab. But
Yeah.
It's really horrible on the internet, because you have to start after 10 minutes. You have to start from the beginning, and you can't set marks if you think, oh, maybe it loses focus.
So have you talked to tech support? Have you talked to anyone that in the company yet?
Yes, I was talking to my distributor, but they told me they know the problem, but if you tell to Freedom Scientific, nobody wants to solve the problem, because the problem on the internet most appears after 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and nobody wants to check this out.
So if you'll send me an email,
that would be good. Yeah.
If you can send an email to me, can I give you my email address?
Yes. Can you spell? It was Eric,
yeah.
Or?
Eric, yeah. So just to email me, it's just the letter E, and then my last name, Damery, D-A-M-E-R-Y. at Vispero.com.
Damery, D-A-M-E-R-Y?
Yes.
At Vispero.com.
Correct.
Okay.
And send me an email and just, say Fusion from SightCity call. And I will make sure that someone from our tech support staff reaches out to you directly today.
Okay.
And I know that we can recover you. We can get this recovered. Something is not installed correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Let's see if there's no other hands up at the moment. I mentioned the 2023 version. It will go to public beta around the first week in September this year, and our scheduled release time would be the end of October. If you haven't participated in the public beta, we encourage it. When we put it out, the nice thing about the new version is you can install it on your computer. It goes into a separate directory. It does not overwrite what you've been using. So you can fall back to the other version if you choose to do so. You can keep running 2022. Any other items or thoughts, Jan, that you think I should bring up?
No, well, it is good that you mentioned the performance was always a little bit a question mark before, but you mentioned it correctly. Since version 2022, the performance has been really significantly been improved, and it really has speed up all processes. So I would encourage people, when they still encounter it, you're right that things could not have been properly updated or installed. Call your dealer, or when you are a dealer, send an email to you or to escalations@vispero.com, and then we will help you with the new FS support tool. We can really investigate your system properly, and then I'm sure you will get to see this significant update or also of the performance, because it has been really progressing in a positive way. So especially running Fusion in these days, speech and magnification has been up and running well, like we are expecting from a screen from a program like this.
And many users, you know, we have the updates that come out about every 6 weeks. The last one was in April.
Yeah.
The next one will be June 21st. When these updates come out, it's always helpful to install them over top. But in the case of this particular user that was just talking about the things that are occurring, the problems that are happening on a regular basis, I mean, the first place I would always start, if it would just, you know, even before I start talking to someone, the first thing I'd probably do is uninstall, remove shared components. I'd leave my user settings, and then I would reinstall. Something seems to have gotten amiss.
Yep.
And this can happen for many different reasons. It could be our installers. It could be that when you were doing our install, Windows installs were updating in the background as well. There's many things that can cause this problem. But in all cases, if you've done that and you're still experiencing these issues, we've got to get you talking to tech support. We've got to get a case opened with it. Yep. And we'll figure it out.
Correctly. And we are never tired, you know, to help you. It is always our pleasure to serve you. And so it's really the user need to perform well, and in private and in work and school situations. So it's
Definitely
our highest priority.
Okay, it's the top of the hour. I think we'll call it quits. And again, I will send my slide deck on to the SightCity staff to upload someplace. And if somebody needs it sooner, if you want to send an email to edamery@vispero.com, just make sure you put in the subject line SightCity slides, and I'll send them back in a zip file to you.
Yeah, and tomorrow we have then, or well, in half an hour, I have a presentation about Focus Blue. And tomorrow we have at 11 a.m. Again, or 10:30, Jim Porsche about ClearView speech. And then Matt Ater is about 3 p.m. about JAWS Kiosk. And then Roxana will have her speech about presentation about ZoomText at 4 p.m. tomorrow.
Excellent. Well, thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Right. Thank you. Bye.